excited about a super green soup that has 5 different green vegetables. Was not on my bingo card, yet here I am, and it tastes so good. Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. Okay, so in this video I wanted to show you how I make my super green soup, and the reason why I call it super green soup is because in this recipe we're using 5 different green vegetables. I know you're probably like, girl, green vegetables in a soup, what am I doing? I promise you it tastes really good. I wanted the soup to be nutrient dense, I wanted it to have anti-inflammatory properties, and to use vegetables that naturally detox the body. If there are any ingredients in this recipe that do not work specifically for you, I would highly recommend you substitute them out with your choice of ingredients. So let's go ahead and go through the ingredients that we're going to use in this soup. First one is peas. These are actually frozen peas. If you are allergic to peas, you can leave these out. You could also try substituting these with edamame if you are a fan of edamame. Honestly, the reason why I added them to this soup is because they are packed with nutrients, and more specifically because of the protein. But I'm also trying to add peas into my diet more frequently, and I had them in the freezer, so I was like, let's go ahead and throw them in there. I'm also going to be adding asparagus. I just like asparagus in general, so I decided to add it into the soup. Another green vegetable that we're using are leeks. I love a good leek in a meal, so we're gonna add that in there as well. And we're also gonna use broccoli. The last green vegetable that I use in this recipe is kale. If you've seen my other videos, you know I love me some kale. I specifically love dino kale. However, the curly kale also works. Though these do have flavors on their own, we are going to be adding some additional ingredients to this soup to give it even more flavor. And of course, I have my good old nutritional yeast, which y'all know I use nutritional yeast all the time, but it's a really good source of vitamin B12, and it'll add a nutty cheese-like flavor. When I made the soup the first time and I tasted it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is giving broccoli cheddar soup. And I think it's because, I mean, of course the broccoli, but also the nutritional yeast. Also gonna go in with some garlic. What is a recipe without some garlic? And then you can either use vegetable broth, or what I plan to do is dilute a little bit of this better than bouillon reduced sodium vegetable base. I'm just gonna add this to about 2 to 3 cups of water and go from there. And then another item that we're going to use in this recipe is white miso paste, and this is going to give it a salty, sweet type of flavor. It's not too sweet, it's more salty than sweet, but it does add a nice layer of flavor to the soup. If you do not have it, or you don't want to buy it, or you just don't want to use it, you can also just leave it out completely. And then the last ingredient that we're going to be using is going to be some sort of milk. When I made this the first time, I used a light coconut milk, but you could also try this with almond milk, soy milk, hemp seed milk, cashew milk. We just need some sort of milk. Okay, now we've gone through everything. It is time to go ahead and put the soup together. I'm using this much asparagus, but feel free to use however much you prefer. And what I was taught to do with the asparagus is that you take it, let it snap, because this is the part that is going to be pretty rough. And I mean, since we're blending this, you could honestly probably leave it on, but I'm choosing to add this to my vegetable broth bag so that I can make veggie broth another day. And then just go ahead and cut these into small pieces. And the next ingredient we're gonna cut up is the broccoli. You can buy broccoli florets, but I wanna say this one was on sale, so I just got the whole broccoli, and then I also get the benefit of using the stem. And go ahead and try to cut these into really small pieces, because we're going to be cooking everything together in one pot, and we want it to cook evenly. And save this for your vegetable broth bag. And I know you're probably like, girl, this is a lot of chopping. It is, but at least we're only using one pot to cook this. I feel like that's a fair trade-off. Next is the kale. Okay, here are all of the veggies that we're going to be using in the soup. And what I'm about to do now is just give these a good wash. And I'm honestly gonna let it sit for a little bit while I cut up the garlic. So I'm using about 5 garlic cloves, but feel free to use however much you prefer. If you want, you could absolutely buy pre-minced garlic, but I just feel like it's something about fresh garlic that it's gonna do it for me every single time. Okay, so while my Dutch oven heats up, I'm about to go ahead and make my vegetable broth, or I don't know what you want to call it, but that's just where I'm taking the better than bouillon and combining it with water. I'm probably going to use about a teaspoon. You honestly don't need a lot of it. Okay, and then I just have some warm water right here. So I'm doing 3 cups of broth. This is the easy part. We're just gonna add some olive oil, use however much you like, or you could also just do this without it. And then we are going to cook down the veggies. Add the peas in there. I didn't add the garlic just yet. And that's because we don't want it to burn. We're gonna cook these veggies for about 7 to 10 minutes. We just wanna make sure each and every chopped vegetable is cooked through. So you will have to continue to stir this so that the veggies that are on top can get down to the bottom. So I know I mentioned that we're cooking this for 7 to 10 minutes. Because we want this soup to be as nutrient dense as possible, we don't want to cook all the nutrients out of the vegetables. So our goal really is to just cook these down versus browning them or crisping them up like we tend to do with other meals. Okay, we're about to add some miso paste. Add the garlic and then just mix this up. The first time I made this, I did add the nutritional yeast now, but the more that I think about it, because I want to be able to absorb more benefits from the nutritional yeast, I'm gonna add this after we blend everything on up towards the end. Also gonna add some black pepper in here. And the reason why I didn't say to add any salt, because we're adding miso and better than bouillon vegetable base to this. Although the vegetable base is reduced sodium, there's still sodium in this dish. So I would just recommend waiting until after we blend everything, add the nutritional yeast to see if you actually need more salt. Add the coconut milk and the vegetable broth. And then just give that a good stir. And we're just gonna let those simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes. Now, while those are simmering, you can do one of 3 things. You can clean up your mess, you can do something around the house that you need to knock out, or you can prepare the toppings that you want to enjoy with this soup. Now, for example, the first time I made this soup, which I featured in a What I Eat in a Week video, I didn't show the process and the steps of me making the soup, but I did show the toppings that I was planning to use, and I ended up going with some cashew cheese crusted croutons that I sprinkled on top, along with some toasted sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds. So this has been simmering for about 15 minutes now, and what we want to do is blend it. I'm gonna be using my immersion blender. If you have an immersion blender, you should be able to go ahead and just blend it even while the veggies are hot. However, if you're planning to blend this in an actual blender, let everything cool before you add them in there, because you do not want to put hot veggies in liquid in your blender. Now we have everything all blended. I'm going to add in my nutritional yeast. So I gave it a taste test and decided that I wanted to add just a little bit more salt and black pepper. So feel free to do the exact same. Okay, so the soup is done, my toppings are done. I'm just gonna drizzle mine with some coconut milk. I toasted some sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds. You can either toast these on your own, or you can just buy them from the store already toasted. And then I'm adding some sourdough croutons. And I know some people aren't a huge fan of sourdough. However, I will say that sourdough, based off of what I've read, does have anti-inflammatory properties, especially considering the process that it takes to actually create sourdough bread. So feel free to eat it with sourdough bread. You want to make croutons, or just sliced and toasted, or you can just do it without. Bite for you. My bite. And I'm not kidding when I say blend it up. It really reminds me of a broccoli cheddar soup. This is chef's kiss, but that is how I make my super green soup. I truly hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to subscribe to my channel. And if you want to give the recipe a try, you can find the measurements in the description box, and be sure to come back and let me know how it turned out. I will see you in the next video. Bye. A few moments later.